Welcome to the LBEB Show, episode number 15. We have a special episode today. We're going to be talking some breaking news within the sport of Olympic weightlifting that just dropped today around weightlifting, or the IWF, looking to reinvent weightlifting and essentially change the rules for some future games, particularly the European and Asian Junior Championships over the next couple of weeks, where they could be implementing a lot of these things we have to talk about, and we'll give you our reactions with that. So it looks like the IWF, they're putting this plan into place.
I
Yes,
do
or
want to
you want to jump in?
I do want to
Go.
interrupt you because I reread that part like 3 or 4 times. And I think what they are saying is they won't change it for the Asian and European champs. I think those are going to be the first people that are going to experience it because they're so young. So it seems like they're only going to start implementing it after Paris 2024. Yeah.
Okay.
So
That's good
basically,
reading.
everyone from then onwards, like Mia, might experience weightlifting if she wants to
Yeah.
do weightlifting in a whole different way to what I've
Yeah.
experienced
So it
weightlifting.
looks like they want to can the press out rule, which is very interesting. So they want no more press outs. They want fewer refs. Okay, I can get on board with that. Different formats for competitions. And then they want enhanced versions of those already on the calendar, whatever that means. They also want to collaborate with newer strength sports like CrossFit and other functional fitness competitions. And they want to use better technology to improve the presentation of the events in the arena and on broadcast channels to change the image of weightlifting. So I think it's a very interesting. I think the most interesting statement that they've made is from the General Secretary of the IWF, saying his dream is to cancel the press out to make weightlifting simple. You lift the bar or you don't lift the bar. To me, that kind of destroys the whole essence of weightlifting. I don't know about you, Mona. I know you have some strong thoughts and opinions on this if you
Yeah.
want to dive in.
I feel like when I read this article the first time, when it popped up and you were like, go read that article, I gave a lot of comments and you were like, okay, we need to podcast this. And I think this is so worthy for like people to hear. And I think other weightlifters will probably feel the same. I mean, if there are weightlifters out there that doesn't feel the same, obviously that's their own thoughts and opinions. But when it comes to the press out rule, now I don't think they need to take out the press out. I just think the judges need to do better because this never used to be a problem in the past. And the thing is, the athletes recently that they've been failing, and they mentioned specifically Maddie Rogers' lift in here. And I remember watching it. But the problem wasn't the press out. The problem was the judges calling an unfair ruling.
Yeah.
Firstly, there was no elbow movement. So that doesn't have to even do with the press out. I think they circled her shoulder when they showed it, and there was no video replay either. So again, that's not on the press out. It's the judges that made a mistake, firstly. And secondly, the host country, for whatever reason, it's either the host country or the organizing committee, they didn't have a replay system, which is really bad if it's going to be an Olympic qualification event. So because those rules, if you fail an athlete when they clearly had no press out, or an athlete presses out and you pass them, that to me is something that, again, it's not, I mean, this could happen to anyone, but I mean, like, at the end of the day, this could make or break an athlete's Olympic career because now the athletes are fully in Olympic mode. They're all trying to qualify. People are giving their be all and end all to do their best at every single competition. And there's been so many unfair rulings. And there's been, like I read in the article as well, I think it was, I might be wrong, but was it the Armenian that he also missed out on a medal, and it might have been at Worlds, and they actually protest because they basically
The Iranian.
or the Iranian, yeah. They basically said all his lifts were no lifts, and he ended up missing out on a medal, and they ended up protesting. But again, that is not the fact that there's a press out, or you're not allowed to press out. That is because the judges are scoring unfairly for some reason. Since the Olympics, the 2020 Olympics, 2021, they've just come out with the most ridiculous way of judging. Athletes will barely move their arm and they'll fail their lift. Athletes' shoulder will just move, which is 100% legal, and then they'll fail athletes and they'll call it a press out. So again, by saying they need to take away that press out rule completely will 100% destroy the sport. And because if you look at weightlifting and if you look at like how weightlifting started and the background of weightlifting is an art and it's beautiful, very, very similar to gymnastics. And I still remember when I was doing a CrossFit movement at a gymnastics gym the one day, a gymnastics coach said to me, it's so sad seeing how CrossFit has taken away a lot of the beauty of how the movements are done, because it's now just getting the movements done and it counts. But gymnastics, if you compete in gymnastics, it's an art. If you compete in weightlifting, it's an art. And now you take away the press out rule, and now any Dick, Tom, and Harry is going to lift, and the one who's just the brute strongest with zero form, making weightlifting look ugly, just like what happens in CrossFit competition. Obviously I'm a big advocate. Like, I love CrossFit. I think CrossFit is amazing. I think it's been amazing for weightlifting, but I think it's the silliest thing ever to take away that press out rule. I think the judges needs to do better, not take out.
I think, as you mentioned, it basically turns it into strongman or CrossFit instead of weightlifting, because it's just getting the bar overhead any means possible.
Yeah.
And yeah, it does become ugly. I don't see how that brings in a bigger audience, to be honest.
I think if they want to do that, go do CrossFit or go do strongman. Yeah. You don't have to change a sport that's got hundreds of years of history behind it. It's a beautiful sport. It's an art. It's so many coaches that, have given their everything for the sport. They know how much technique goes into the sport, how much strength goes into the sport. And now you want to destroy how the sport looks and how the athletes are doing that. Because at the end of the day, people always look at weightlifters and they're like, weightlifting is so amazing. The athlete gets that bar from the shoulders to the overhead position. And, to me, it looks beautiful. But I also think that if they take out the press out rule, it's going to also increase the risk of injury, because now athletes are not going to care about doing things safely. It's going to be how heavy I can jerk overhead in the worst possible form. So shoulder injuries are going to come, back injuries are going to come. And you can just imagine, as a coach or someone that's been in the sport for a really long time, ugly lifting has never been safe lifting.
Yeah, no, exactly. And along those same lines, you're talking about referees. They want to have fewer referees, which I completely agree with.
Yeah.
I think they obviously have the huge gravy train at every competition in their suits, and what's the point in having half of them there? It makes no sense.
Yeah.
For me, the problem with the press out as well is the jury and the what do you call it? The review. What do they call it again? The card system, whatever they want to call it.
Basically, now you've confused me too. But
you can review a lift basically, or a decision.
The challenge card.
Challenge card. There you go. The challenge card.
Mia told me.
I think they fucked that up so bad. They're doing it so ass backwards. It's beyond me how they still think it's a good system. But essentially, you have the 3 judges in the front of the platform who will give the decision on the lift, and then you have a jury of 5 people, which to me is way too many. 3 would be enough. 3 maximum, so you can go 2 to 1 or 3, whatever. They have the jury that will come in, and they will either overall judges or the challenge will go to the judges. Okay, so to the review panel. So, for example, someone challenges the 3 judges, it goes to the jury. That's cool. The problem is when the judges give 2, 3 white lights, then the jury steps in and overrules them, and then they put the challenge card down. It goes to the same jury. That's stupid. You can't go to the same jury to make a decision when they've already just made a decision. You need to have a second party to look at it. And that sounds like, oh, you need more staff. No, you need to have less judges on that jury and less judges overall. And then you can have someone else who would be, for example, independent of that jury, who can review the challenge card in that situation. So it could be, for example, 3 people in the jury panel. And then maybe just one person on I guess, the secondary to review any challenges that come to the jury. So you have someone outside of the jury
I think more than
to be
one
able to rule on
person,
it.
just because biasness. And
Yeah, but you
because
can't use
there's,
two.
well, then those two can come up, or then make it three and then be like 3 and 3. But then,
Yep.
okay, I know it creates more, but then at the end of the day, then I think it would become a lot more fair play game than, like you said, now taking it to a jury that's already overruled it. They literally sit there and they replay it like 1,000 times, but you can see their minds are made up. Like,
Yeah, that's
and
stupid.
and some athletes, I mean, you have seen this. Professional athletes, elite level athletes, Olympic athletes have posted about this. Like, what was wrong with this lift? Nothing, but yet it was failed. So I
Yeah.
think once they've made up their mind, like you said, it's, you can play the challenge card, you can try what you want to. It's just not going to change their minds.
Yeah, exactly. So the fewer referees things I do quite like, but they do need to change the format of how they judge, I think. And then just some kind of criteria where it's consistent with that press out rule, because obviously every competition, even every session within the same competition, becomes the judging standard becomes different. I mean, we see it.
Very
The
different.
last Olympics, how strict was the last Olympics compared to some other competitions? It was ridiculous. And
I've
then,
seen athletes who bombed, who had no business bombing.
yeah,
And then I saw athletes that got a lift that had no business getting that lift. So, like
yeah,
you said, the inconsistency. And I honestly feel like over the last maybe 4 or 5 years, the judging has become worse. And I cannot put my finger on it. I
I
can't
can.
tell you
You know what the
why.
common denominator? You know what happened?
Politics.
Mr. Arjan left.
Mr. Jean left. So you're
He
saying he needs to come back? I think we're going to get a lot of weightlifters being like, okay, we are canceling this. We are canceling Lift Big Eat Big. No.
he obviously had some standards in place. I don't know. There
Yeah.
was that the judging is now has been much worse than what it has been, as you were saying.
Yeah. Which is
We
so
don't know
weird because
why.
it is
Yeah.
actually since Thomas Ajan left. So it's like
See,
he left, but then the judging became worse. But it's like
but it's all
the
the same
things that
people.
he's done to the sport, you can't bring someone like that back. You need to have someone that's going to have a way to either up the standard, call these people out. I don't know if they do this in other sports, but potentially if judges make stupid mistakes, I feel like judges also need to be kept accountable. So it maybe give them a warning, but so
That's
many people, like
tough.
you said, they come over and they, yeah, I mean, they're all good judges. I mean, like I know some really good judges as well, and will always play fair. But then it's like some of them, it's like a holiday. They come over and they get to travel.
Well,
When the
shooting
athletes,
shots
when the
fired. Who are you
when the
talking about?
countries athletes can't even travel because there's no money for the athletes, but there's money for the officials. So
I sound like this is from experience.
this is 100% from alleged experience, I guess. I don't even know if that is a sentence that you can put together,
Yep,
but
we can count it.
I just feel like there's just a lot of unfairness. And like I said, I might not have a future anymore in the sport as like an elite level athlete competing at a high level or aiming for Olympics like I used to, but I still love the sport dearly. I've been in it for 22 years. I was on the athletes commission. I fought for athletes. I still want to fight for athletes. I feel like, you still need to be that voice for the younger athletes because they don't have a say. So they need us as senior athletes and athletes who has been there. We are now in semi-retirement or retirement or competing casually or whatever you want to call it. But like we can literally bring our experience and bring our voices to the table because I feel like if anything, they might listen to us as the older athletes. But again, it becomes political at the end of the day. So it's like, what do you do? But I'm also a strong believer in you can't just sit back and be like, okay, it's political. I don't want to fight for the athletes. I'm just going to let it be. because I don't think it's fair. I feel like it's going to take one person, and one of those people or athletes are going to get through to these people. They're going to make a stand. Or their voice is going to be heard, and it will make a difference. But it's going to take constant pushing from athletes who's been there, athletes who's got authority, athletes who's got, good social media following, and athletes who's got the values behind them as well, and not just doing it because they want to be in commissions
The
or
sports politics are
politics.
so
Yeah,
bad. I mean,
it's
we've
so bad.
experienced all. I mean, in multiple sports. The politics of the sport is fucking shocking, and we're doing professional sports and organizations. If anyone's hasn't been involved in some of these, like, you really don't want to. It's pretty bad. But it looks like they're gonna. It looks like from what they're saying here that it's going to start. They'll start trying this within youth competition before they do it in seniors, because they're saying here that they want less referees and technical officials at competitions, which is especially important in youth competitions. Young athletes should enjoy it, not worry about referees. If their lift is not quite perfect, it's okay. I don't know what your thoughts are on that. I think there should be one standard throughout, rather than kind of just giving, you're a youth athlete, so it's okay if you pressed out a little, and then they get to seniors and you can't get away with the same thing. Well, unless they change it all the way around, which they probably will. But I'm not on board with that either.
No, I mean, it honestly, like I've seen, some competitions in countries where, beginner athletes start, and they'll be like lenient in the club competitions and things like that. And you know what? It's fine, especially if people, come from CrossFit, it's not their sport or whatever. But like you said, if you don't have that set standard from the get-go, from a youth athlete all the way up, or beginner level athlete, then that athlete will then come to the senior level, like you said, or the open level. And because this is the way they know now how to lift, and this has been instilled in them, it's the only way they know. So now they go on stage and they get failed for a lift and being called, a press out or a no lift or whatever. But their bodies has been conditioned to lift that way. It's like learning a bad habit, and you're doing this bad habit for 5 years. And now all of a sudden, one day you have to change that habit. It doesn't just change. It's going to take years and years, especially if you've been doing something like that for such a long time. It's really hard to reverse the wrongdoings or the bad lifting technique. So you have to, like you said, I'm also a big believer in just do things properly from the beginning. What it could mean is athletes could lift less, maybe, or they could be more, they can somehow control it a bit more. I don't know how that would look. I mean, I can't give, I don't have like an idea of exactly how that could be put together or like, done for athletes, but I do 100% agree with there needs to be one standard, and the standard needs to be set from the young all the way upwards.
Yeah.
Because what I don't agree with is doping athletes from a young age. And I think this is where they also have kind of crossed the line, because it's not so much that the techniques are the problems of the kids. It's that you get youth athletes that are, new to the sport. They've got beautiful techniques, they've been training really hard, and they go and lift against another youth athlete or junior athlete that is doping. And I mean, we've seen this. There's been results and test results that's come out. I mean, it's been public knowledge that there are countries that dope their youth athletes. And the thing is, that to me is what needs to be looked at, because that is the biggest, it's a massive problem. I mean, you cannot dope a youngster. To me, that's like child abuse. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that on here, but you cannot do that to a youngster who has no say, that's just following the advice from their coach. And they also get told that if they go or if they don't do it, they won't be selected for the teams. I've had athletes that come forward about this, athletes who's confide in me about this. And it's something that I feel like is such a big problem. And this should be made public. Not the fact that technique or, there needs to be less less judges because athletes need to be able to kind of lift the way they want or lift with a bad technique or anything like that.
So when are you making it public?
Oh, that's not up to me. That is up to the higher people that know exactly, because these athletes, I've listened to them, I've advised them who they can speak to. I don't know if they took it further or not. I hope they did. But the higher ups are the ones who need to put a stop to this. That's one thing that needs to
they're
come
part
from
of
the
it.
top. Yeah, but those are the people who need to put a stop to it.
Yeah. So basically, it's never going to stop. So if you follow the sport of weightlifting, obviously you see a lot. I mean, the Bulgarian 18-year-old that's breaking world records. I mean, we know a lot of the Eastern Bloc countries are well known for doping. We can just say allegedly they're doping, even though they are doping. And kids from a young age, I mean, we've seen it. We know about it. We've heard about it. Mona's been told by many people all about their experiences with it. So these things do happen. They just get kind of swept under the rug, and
I was
everyone
going to
wants to
say
see PBs.
it's also very much a taboo topic because now they are trying to do all these extra things to try and cover up everything else that's happening on the surface level. And if you've been an athlete for a long time in the sport, you are not fooled by it. You know that you can't try and fix things from here when you haven't fixed your foundation yet.
Yeah. So if we go missing after this podcast, you know who to look for. So we're going to say something good now. Actually, something I do quite like, depending on how they do it. They're talking about collaborating with sports like CrossFit, functional fitness, etc. I think if they do that well enough, where, for example, big CrossFit events, they host a weightlifting event at those CrossFit events, that to me is a big winner.
Yeah.
Exposing a whole host of recreational CrossFitters to most likely their first weightlifting competition.
I actually mentioned this in one of the meetings that we had, and
Yeah,
I
but they
actually
would have told
said,
you to shut up because you're a woman. So
yeah, I actually said, and I specifically mentioned the Arnold Classic, and I said we need to have competitions where there's so like this. You must remember, like these massive events. There's already weightlifting at the Arnold Classic, but I
yeah,
said that is
make
a
it a
good
qualifier.
but that is a good example of having hundreds and thousands of spectators coming to watch a sport, and not just one sport. They are coming to watch a bunch of strength sports, because you will often find that if there's a person who's a strength sport enthusiast, they love all strength sports. So it will include powerlifting, weightlifting,
Yeah,
strongman, even the CrossFit nowadays, because they've been having a lot of strength sport influence in it as well. So by doing that, even maybe like the Rogue Invitational, I think they had a small weightlifting competition because I had one of my athletes send me a video of it, which was really cool. But I think they need to now maybe think bigger and make it a bigger competition. And maybe even, when there's like a CrossFit Games, something that's super massive, hold like the world champs at the same time, because then it's a bunch of international athletes. I know obviously with the CrossFit Games, they always host it in America, but we also do know that America does host amazing competitions.
yeah.
So I don't think, obviously it has to do with the countries and bidding, and there's a whole process. Like it's not simple to just be like USA should host it. But I'm just saying, there's been 2 world championships in America that I competed in, and they were both amazing. So
Well, if you're going to grow it, you've got to host it in America. Sure, like they host it
yeah,
all. They host it all over the same places over and over, and it's a lot of Eastern
yeah,
European, African
and people
countries,
look
stuff like
forward
that.
to it.
Yeah,
People look
but I
forward.
mean, the host in these countries, it's all good. It's great for those countries, but it's small. It's kind of like it might be that country's one of their main sports, but it's still such a small part of their culture compared to the numbers you would get on, say, an American audience and things like that. Especially if you combined it with another sport or another festival, that's when you're getting your big numbers. And I think it's interesting. They talk about they want to improve the presentation and get it on different broadcast channels. So it sounds like maybe they're looking for like TV deals and things like that. But what I think would really blow up weightlifting is what a lot of other sports have done through Netflix. For example, the
The
Formula One
documentaries.
Drive to Survive, Full Swing with the golf, Breaking Point with the tennis. People watch those. I don't know how many people I've talked to
Oh
that
my
have watched
gosh.
the Formula One documentary and told them now
Yeah.
they're into Formula One. You do that same formula with weightlifting, and you
Yeah.
follow a few weightlifters, give get the audience to know who these weightlifters are, their background, their stories, their struggles
Yeah.
through training. Holy shit, you blow up the sport of weightlifting just like
I
that.
was just thinking, two athletes came to my mind, and that is Lasha and Lydia Valentine. That's been
Mm.
in the sport for so long. They've got such a big name in the sport. Like almost all weightlifters know Lasha and all weightlifters know Lydia. And by doing that and having people see this beautiful woman doing weightlifting that didn't change into a man or become masculine like people think weightlifting does. It removes that stigma around it. It's someone that still kept their femininity. And then you've got Lasha, who's like this beast of a
The strongest
person,
man ever.
super amazing, breaking world records left and center. I mean, like, he's just phenomenal to watch, the same like how Lydia used to be. And I still believe, even though Lydia might be making a comeback, they said, but obviously I'm not sure about that. But I feel like her story of how she started and the amount of time she's been in the sport has made history by itself. So why not use someone like that? And not use, but like you can grow the sport through something like that. Because like you
Yeah.
said, people will watch Netflix and they see now all these bodybuilding documentaries and things like that. And you hear of people who never even like thought of the sport, they watch it and all of a sudden they like super psyched up and they're like, man, I want to go lift weights. So
Yeah.
and a young girl sees it, a girl that's watching Netflix and she's like, wow, a girl can do weightlifting, like it can open up so many doors, it can open up so many possibilities. And there you go, you've got hundreds of girls and hundreds of boys or guys, that gets hooked to the sport. So I think it's just going about it the wrong way. And like, I understand maybe they do have good intention around it, and the thought of changing it and being open-minded about it is really good. I just think that there are other possibilities that in front of them, but
Mm.
they are not grabbing them.
Yeah, that Netflix style documentary, you follow someone, just for example, like Maddie Rogers, you mentioned before. It could be any other, I guess, more established weightlifters or up and coming weightlifters. You follow like a few of them through their training, their competitions, behind the scenes. You see how it works behind the scenes in the warm up area. You see on the competition platform, the wins, the highs, the lows, all of it. That
You
thing
see
will
their
crush.
backstory, you see where they come from. A lot of them
Exactly.
come from poverty and they lifted themselves out of it. Um,
Exactly.
and to me, it's so, so, so inspirational. And I feel like they are losing opportunities by not grabbing these.
And they have the money.
Maybe
Let's
they just
face
need
it.
to hire us again or hire me.
Us again, like we've worked for like we
Hire
worked for them.
me. Hire me and be like, Mona, we would love to have you give us ideas. No, but honestly, there's so many great, things that they can do because the sport is amazing. I love it with my whole heart. I mean, I don't want to see it go. I don't want to see it be out of the Olympics. I don't want to see it destroyed. I don't want to see them changing the rules to make it less attractive because you don't have to do that. You
Yeah.
can still keep it as attractive as it is, but just going about it a different way can definitely push up the popularity like 1,000%.
Yeah. I think it's funny they say they want to change the image of weightlifting, but the image of weightlifting like isn't the press up rule and stuff like that, I guess, isn't really the image of weightlifting. The image of weightlifting is doping. You talk to
Mm,
anyone in the world who has no idea about weightlifting, knows about weightlifting, it's always about doping.
yeah,
And that is the image that needs to be changed. But that will never change because
that's what I'm saying. Like, fix the
they kind
foundation,
of
and
enable
yeah,
it.
yes.
so
I mean that was what happened in previous years, and that's why there is a documentary of the whole Thomas Ajan, scandal that went
yeah,
on and how it went on, and then also with the Bulgarian team and yeah, Icarus, was it called Icarus?
that was a
That
good doco.
document. Yeah, so it's you need to look at fixing things first from the ground up before you can, they're kind of going like, oh, we need to fix the roof, but the foundation is weak.
Yeah. But if you're listening IWF, do that damn Netflix documentary. Do some big competitions while other big competitions are going on. That'll at least be a good start. Don't can the press out rule. If you're wondering when these changes might actually happen, so it looks like they're voting on it in September. They've basically been creating this for 3 months. They're voting on it in Saudi Arabia in September, essentially. So I guess we'll know more
At
then.
Worlds.
Okay. So yeah, looks like there'll be we'll know then what's going to happen, if they're going to have the press out rule or not, how they're going to implement everything, what their plan is to, I guess, further grow the sport after Paris 2024. This might be a little play to try and get the IOC on their side, right?
I was just thinking that. Oh my gosh, you like read my mind. I was literally going to say,
that's why we're married.
I wonder, yeah, that's true. I was literally just thinking, I wonder if they're also not just doing this to like show IOC they're going to do this, or they want to make these changes. And then when they say Olympics is, or weightlifting is back in the Olympics, then they do nothing. It was exactly my thought. And I'm like,
what's funny? That's probably what's going to happen too. And it's going to be such a disappointment. We have no faith. For anyone listening, we have no faith.
If they end up not doing it, that will be good for the press out rule, but they really need to up the judges' standards. Like, seriously, judges, you need to do better. And those that are good, like, you are amazing. You respect what you do. Like I said, there's a lot of amazing judges out there, but there's also really a bunch of bad ones. And for the youngsters out there, like I said, if there are, any weightlifters out there or people wanting to start weightlifting, or has been in the sport for a long time, I would also like to know, I don't know if they can comment on the video, once it's been released. I would love to know their thoughts behind it. But then I would also love to see more athletes, share these kind of things and post it out there, especially the athletes who have influence. People see it and people follow those people, and it can make a big difference at the end of the day. Like I said, it takes one person who will get their voice across, and it will make that massive difference at the end of the day.
Yeah, no, for sure. Well, that concludes episode 15. We didn't have Colm today. He was busy, so we thought we'd jump in some breaking news for you. But next week we will have our How to Get a Bigger Chest episode coming out to get you those huge pecs. So we will stay tuned for that. We will have that live streamed and we'll have that up as the recording as well. But make sure you check out the Lift Big Eat Big Underground. You can go to liftbigeatbig.com. You'll find it there, or you'll find it down in the description in the comments. We have new weightlifting programs going up currently. We have all bonus weightlifting programs. We have Colm Strongman programs. We have all the strength and size programs from Lift Big Eat Big as well. So everything is in there in the app for one cheap subscription price. Plus you get access to the online community. So it's a really nice subscription there. It kind of gives you everything you need to make gains. So we will catch you next week.